Joy Reid recently accused someone of being a diversity hire.
Oh God. I feel like yeah,
That black Republican congressman. She
you really
accused
have to
him of being a diversity hire.
you really have to pay people to watch these Joy Reid clips because they're so they're just so
I
annoying.
I almost think that she's playing a role at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
She
That's exactly what I was thinking,
Yeah, I
actually.
can't. Is she not self-aware enough? Because let's all remember, Joy Reid is a dumbass, okay? But she went to Yale or Harvard, right? And
Harvard.
we all know she got in mainly due to affirmative action. We all know, okay? Her qualifications paled in comparison to a lot of other people who wanted to get in Harvard. So she got in due to an admissions office that has a progressive stance. They want to let people in on a even if you don't call it affirmative action, that's what they're doing. Okay. She got into Harvard based on that. And Harvard is a great springboard to other great things, such as being on MSNBC. And this guy, he was not even hired. So I don't know how she could call him a diversity hire. He was elected by people. As far as I can tell, if you're elected by people, that's you earning a job fair and square. And yes, she's calling him a
Although yeah, you
diversity
have to
hire.
make a distinction between. Well, what about Kamala Harris? Because I
Well,
think
she wasn't at the top of the ticket though.
okay, yeah, yeah.
And
Because
also,
I would call her a diversity hire.
well, did she win her first term or was she put in office to replace Boxer?
Oh, I have no idea.
I believe I should know this, but I believe maybe Boxer retired in the middle of her term and she was just put in office. But if she wasn't just put in office, then she's not a diversity hire. She won her election fair and square. More people voted for her than her opponent.
Mhm. What about her,
She wasn't
being
hired.
vice president? Where do you rank that?
Being vice
Because she was
president, yeah, maybe that could be considered a
it's like a
hire
mixture. Yeah, it's
because
like a
you're not the
mixture, right?
top of the ticket, right? People are not really voting for you. So yeah, that one, I guess you could. But obviously, this congressman, he was not part of a ticket. He was by himself, and people voted for him.
Yeah.
And what is her argument is so convoluted. It's something like, well, the Republicans just they're so racist that they're just yearning, they're desperate to have black people. Like they're so racist, they're desperate to have black people. Like don't these two things contradict each other? I don't understand. If they were so racist, they probably would be desperate not to have black people. Wouldn't that be the case? She has no coherent argument.
Think about Joy Reid. I could see it. It's hard for me to tell what the reality is. Like, is she just so dumb that she just doesn't, yeah, she just has completely lacking in that self-awareness, or maybe, maybe her admission into Harvard was actually legit. She's smart and she's just acting right now. Like, which
Yeah.
one is it?
I mean, I don't know
I
her
can't,
personally,
can't
so
tell.
both are possible. I'm gonna lean toward she's dumb because she's done some other dumb stuff, right? Like the whole saying racist stuff on your Twitter and then saying, "Oh, I was hacked" or some bullshit like that, right? Just like
That's true. Yeah.
even in a tight situation, even in a an emergency like that, a crisis like that, she didn't react the way I think an intelligent person would react. So I'm gonna lean
Unless it's
towards she's
yeah,
dumb.
unless it's really just a 4D chess thing.
I'm not gonna give her the benefit of the doubt to say 4D chess. So I'm gonna say she's dumb.
Okay.
And for her to accuse anybody else of being a diversity hire is the height of hypocrisy. It's just ridiculous. Well, I mean, saying bad things about white people is never going to be a career killer these days. Like, look at Nick Cannon.
One thing I was thinking about what they were debating. One of the things they were debating about was Social Security and potentially privatizing it, right? And I've always heard this argument about, oh yeah, like we should privatize it and invest it into like the stock market or whatever, and then that would be better than whatever they're doing right now. But isn't the reality that there is no fund? Isn't it just like, the money coming in one year is being paid out to the
Right.
people that
That's the problem. The money's no longer there.
so there is no money to put into the stock market, correct?
No, that's
Like
right. There's no money to put into the stock market. It is the literal definition of a Ponzi scheme.
yeah. So
I
that
know a
guy
lot of people argue with me about this. They say, no, Social Security is not a Ponzi scheme because the government did it. Like, the government can do a Ponzi scheme. You, right now, if you're retired right now and you want to get paid your Social Security check, where does that money come from? It does not come from any money that you put in during your working life. That money comes in from people who are working now and paying into Social Security. That is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. And I have seen these convoluted defenses of Social Security that say, no, it's not a Ponzi scheme. It's it has this or that. Like none of them pass the smell test. None of them would be put forth by a person with a modicum of intelligence. It is a Ponzi scheme. People getting paid are being paid by people who are paying into the system right now. That is the end of the story. And that's the problem with it. It was set up that way. I always say that the problem with Social Security that there was a cookie jar and that the government it was irresponsible and they stuck their hand in the cookie jar when they shouldn't have. But the actual reality is there was never a cookie jar. It was always an IOU.
How do they make up for differences or excess? Like you could easily have 1 year where there's too much money and then 1 year where there's too little.
They just pay it. It's just in the budget. They pay it. Debt. That's how. There is no there's no like the California state worker pension is it's not a Ponzi scheme,
Right.
really,
There's
because
actually
when you give money to the California state pension, that actual money is invested by a state of California into stuff, and their hope is that it grows, and then when you retire, you can draw out some money. That's not a Ponzi scheme. That is them actually investing money for your retirement. Now, they don't do it competently and it's hugely inefficient, then they should just let you do it yourself. But it's not a Ponzi scheme. Social Security doesn't work that way. There is no social security fund manager, right? There is no Social Security fund manager. And in fairness, I guess in somewhat fairness, what would that fund even look like? It would be the most massive fund in the history of mankind.
exactly.
And would there even be places for that money to flow into?
I mean, the thing is, that's scary because again, you're giving up power to somebody else who's controlling that fund, right?
Right.
Imagine, yeah. So there's some dude who is in charge of the Social Security fund. I mean, that person.
He's the most
through his
powerful person on
actions-
earth.
Exactly. Yeah.
He could just buy Twitter and Tesla tomorrow.
ESG would be like, I mean, it's
Right.
probably pale in comparison to.
I mean, the person who runs a Social Security fund would basically have all the voting shares in all the big companies on earth, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's something where, I don't know, 20 years ago when I probably first heard about privatization, I was thinking, oh yeah, it sounds like a good idea. But now I'm thinking, no, I don't think
No.
it's such a good idea.
Here's what you should do. Just let people keep their own goddamn money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Yep.